Hey guys, it's Mrs. Kincaid back with Shadow House, Book 2, ready for Chapter 33. When we finish the chapter, go to Plato Messenger and type in Book 2, Chapter 33, and you can answer whatever question I give you at the end. Here we go. Morocco raised her finger to her lips, like this. The thing beyond the tree trunk was almost upon them. Azumi turned to find Marcus cowering behind her, covering his nose and mouth with both hands. His eyes were wide with terror, and he was trembling. His head was knocking against some leaves, making them shake and rattle. Azumi pulled him close, away from the foliage, and hugged him. To her surprise, he stopped trembling and almost seemed to relax into her arms. Just like a stupid baby, she thought. The others were frozen. Azumi shut her eyes and silently recited a little saying that she had taught herself, hoping that this prayer might help somehow. The footfall stopped a few feet away. The thing swiveled back and forth, searching. Its stench grew stronger. It became overwhelming, like the neighborhood compost pile back in Washington. And then all of a sudden, it lurched towards them, emitting an ear-splitting screech. Its bony hand grabbed a hank of Morocco's hair and yanked her head backwards. Dash stood and turned his phone light into the corpse's face. Distracted by the glow, the figure glared at him and then growled. Azumi yelped, taking in its rotten floral dress and torn burlap sack over its skull, its stick-like limbs, and the noose that was hanging from its neck. Poppy let out a scream, and Marcus clung to her side. "Let go of my sister!" Azumi cried out, springing forward. But the figure swiped at her, knocking Azumi back. Her heel caught on a root, and she fell. Morocco tried to swivel around and face the thing, but its grip was too tight. Poppy, Marcus, and Dash leapt on them, and the force of their collision was enough to free Morocco and knock the corpse a few feet back. Morocco scrambled up the path towards Azumi. Azumi reached out for her, but the thing grabbed Morocco's foot and jerked her towards it. "Stop it, you disgusting freak," she called out. It was too strong. Azumi knew this. There was no way even the 5 of them could stop it. It would overcome Morocco and then the rest of them, one by one. But from above, something squealed. It was high-pitched, like an ancient giant bird. Everyone looked up in time to catch pinpoints of light glinting off of the object that was hurling from the sky. And a moment later, there was a crash, and the corpse was on the ground, spiked by the enormous piece of glass that Azumi had seen dangling from the rooftop. Okay, so now this corpse, this dead thing that was attacking them, has been impaled by a piece of glass falling from the ceiling. Okay. The group let out a breath. Azumi scooted across the ground, not caring that she was scuffing her knees raw. She threw her arms around her sister, and her cheek grew wet as tears leaked from her eyes. "Are you okay?" Azumi whispered. "I've been through worse," said Morocco, shifting her head back and forth as if popping her neck into place. "How about you? Is anybody hurt?" The other 3 didn't answer. They were all just staring at the mess that the glass had made of the corpse. Marcus whispered, "That was really, really, really close." "I can't look," said Poppy, turning away. Dash followed her several yards up the path. "Wait, Azumi," said Marcus. "This is your sister?" "Yes," she cried out, slapping her hand over her mouth and looking over her shoulder, worried about attracting yet another dead thing. "I kept telling you guys that she was here, waiting for us to come back," she went on, a little more quietly this time. Azumi turned to Morocco again. "You have no idea what we went through. She glanced down at her body lying on the path surrounded by glimmering glass. Well, okay, maybe you do, she said. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I think we all do. Azumi's chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath. Please, Morocco, can you get us out of here? Morocco took Azumi's hands and held them in her lap. I said I would, and I will. She glanced at the others and then raised an eyebrow. And if your friends can all remember how to be very, very quiet, I might even get them out in one piece too. Poppy and Dash nodded sheepishly. Marcus only stared at her in awe. Where's your brother? Morocco asked Dash. Didn't you find him? He wouldn't. Dash choked, unable to finish, and then he clenched his fist and stared at the ground. Morocco sighed and nodded. Don't worry, Dash, she said. Her voice was soft. Later, there's always hope. And then she turned to the others. Follow me and watch out for more falling glass. A warm breeze arose as they walked, rustling the leaves and bringing more of that horrible smell from somewhere deeper in the woods. Poppy and Marcus glanced at each other, remembering the hallway that had led them to the rotunda and to the classroom. If this stench is an indication, I think we're definitely headed in the right way, he said. But Poppy turned away, as if not wanting anything to do with him anymore. Marcus hung his head and watched the ground, not wanting to fall. They walked and they walked, stopping every now and again to hide whenever they heard scuffling from the brush. Poppy couldn't get Cyrus out of her mind. He had tried to help rescue Esme, and she had hoped that giving him the journal like Connie had told her would help free him, but he looked peaceful for just a moment before he fell, and she hoped that it had finally somehow let him go. It felt good, if only for a moment, to imagine that the only family she knew wasn't actually a group of monsters, even if they were ghosts. Poppy kept her eyes on Morocco and Azumi, who were a few yards ahead. Marcus shuffled forward, moving towards the sisters, but Dash, he hung back, limping along beside Poppy. I can't believe Dylan tried to kill me. After a moment, Dash sniffed. No, maybe I can. Maybe I deserved it. Of course you deserved it, Poppy whispered. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Of course you didn't deserve that, Poppy whispered. Don't be silly. Do you think that I should still track him down and try to... Whoops, my pages are sticking together. Hold on. And try to reason with him, asked Dash. Morocco said there's always hope. We'll find a way, said Poppy, nodding. Dylan is just like all the others puzzles in this house. There has to be a solution. I'm just sure of it. Marcus followed a few steps behind Azumi and her sister, watching them hold hands. He thought of his own sister back in Ohio. He hoped that he'd see her again. He wanted to race through that front door of their small house and hug his brothers. He wanted to apologize to his mother for what he wasn't really sure. For leaving, maybe? For reminding her of his Uncle Shane? For not telling her about the music that had continued to run through his brain even after he had promised her that it had gone away. But especially for being the worst of this group, the 5 who had been called to this vile place. He thought of his cello, his soul, it was his voice, lying in the foyer where everybody had dropped their luggage. I should have gone back for it, he told himself. I could have tried to play some of Uncle Shane's music and protected us all. Maybe Esme wouldn't have been able to trick us then, at least trick me. He stared at Azumi's back, her shorn hair brushing her neck. Shame burned in his gut for not having seen the truth. He'd been trying to beat Cyrus at his own game, but he'd placed his bet on the wrong girl. How could she have helped him after all he had done? How could she stand to be near him? How could any of them? Marcus choked down the sense of nausea and kept walking, watching for roots and rocks that might reach up from the ground and try to trip him. To comfort himself, he hummed his uncle's melody softly for the first time in hours. Little by little, the landscape changed. The ground grew flat and trees spread out. That putrid breeze let up, and then it went away completely. Soon the group found that they were walking on brick pavers. On either side of the path there were manicured flowers and little trimmed trees and hedges. Silver starlight frosted the edge of everything. Azumi looked up and realized that they were strolling through the garden just outside the walls of Larkspur. Behind her, the glass walls of the greenhouse rose up several stories, and overhead was the night sky, sharp and clear and filled with beauty that shocked her. She turned to Morocco, her mouth open in surprise. "You did it. You got us out." The others rushed up the path behind them, Poppy nearly knocking Morocco over with a hug. Marcus tapped Azumi's foot and smiled. Amazingly, she found herself smiling back. Dash turned and he stared at the house and the tower that seemed to loom over them, as if he was trying to catch a glimpse of his brother up on the roof. Morocco waved for everyone to follow her. "Let's go," she said, stepping off of the path and into the tall grass of the meadow. "We're still not entirely safe." A voice called out from behind them, clear as an alarm bell. "No, you most certainly are not." And then Cyrus emerged from the shadows. Just when you thought everything was safe, there's another thing. Oh my goodness. Okay. This is my question to you. Morocco, Azumi's sister, has been helping them. Is this Morocco's ghost who is helping them? Or did her sister somehow survive whatever happened in the Japanese forest? And this is really her helping them. So you let me know when you go to Plato and Messenger and Book 2, Chapter 33. Is this Morocco the alive sister? Or is this Morocco's ghost helping them? Okay? All right, that's it for this chapter. Bye.